cross stitching runner and welcome to my channel. I want to say a big hello and welcome to all new and returning viewers. And if by chance you've stumbled across this channel is all about cross stitch with a bit of life stuff thrown in. And I was today years old when I learned this thing that I've been doing for quite a while with my stitching with regards to the loop start method, and that's all I can say right now. So if you're keen to hear about what I've learned about the loop start method and how I use, or how we in general use our threads with stitching, please stick around. But in the meantime, let's get into some of the stitching that I've been doing since we last caught up. So the first piece that I have to share with you is a new start that is an Autumn Lane Stitchery piece, and it's called Moonlight Moon's Out, Brooms Out. So this is the piece or chart that I've started, and I've had this one in my stash for some time and had forgotten about it, partly because it had been stored in a tub that was separate to a lot of my stitching stuff that I've brought up to Wollongong with me. So I've started this piece on 16 count navy blue Ada, and I've chosen to start in the middle of the piece, and with the thread, or with the thread that I've chosen to use for the broom, rather than using the core 4 colours, I got lazy and I'm using the Cottage Garden Threads Yellow. It is a name that escapes me at the moment in terms of its exact name. All I know is that I've had it in my stash for a while and I've used it in quite a few pieces where I could, and it's this really nice, gentle, variegated yellow, and I think it is just working really, really nicely with this piece. So the fabric is what it is. I am finding it to be a bit of a stiff Ada, but I do know that the more that I use it, the more it'll soften up and be a lot more pliable and friendlier to use. And the next piece, I apologise for faces going on right now. I feel like I'm about to sneeze. Now that I've mentioned it, it will hopefully go away and come back when I'm not recording. That said, the next piece that I have to share with you is a finish. It's actually a start and a finish because I started it between recordings, so I think this is a really cute piece. I have stitched I think it's called Sleepy Bat. It's out of the Just Cross Stitch 2024 Halloween special. It is a chart designed by Rona Nori, and yes, it's called Sleepy Bat. So here is the I guess a closer up picture of what its recommended finish is like, and the recommended fabric to stitch it on and such. And this is my finished piece. I think it is really, really cute. I'm super proud of this. I stitched it on Paddock Lane Designs fabric called Turbulent. It's 36 count linen, and based on what I'm seeing for the card here, it's approximately 50 by 55 centimeters, and I hope that it shows you what you need. This is the other side of the Paddock Lane Designs card. I've never worked on Paddock Lane Designs fabric before. Before the JK stitching retreat that I went to roughly a month ago now. So again, this is the finished piece. I have stitched it 2/2 on the 36 count fabric, and I've used all of the called for colours except for the blue that we see for the eyes of this cute little guy. The blue I know is DMC thread, and it wasn't sitting on any skein that had markings on it to say what exact number it is. I think it is still fairly close to what the recommended design colours are or were. Overall, I think this guide just looks so great with this fabric. The colours are just so complimentary of the amazing work that has been done for this fabric. So I'm super proud of it. I'm not sure how exactly I'm going to finish it. It is tempting to finish it in the pillow that's recommended for the finish here. I would love to be able to use the special frill or ruching, whatever the special wording is for the trim that's on the pillow, because I just love the colours that are on it. So I'll have to potentially do some searches online to find something like that, or maybe find something similar in my stash to fully complement the colours that are in this piece. So at least for the foreseeable future, it's going to stay on this bigger piece until I stitch some other things on the fabric and need to trim it down and do all that fun stuff that we do for our finishes. Now, the next piece that I have to share with you is some work that I've done on Moonlight Waters. It's charted by Heaven and Earth Designs, based on artwork by Lisa Fane. I've got Lisa on the brain because Lisa is the person who is part of Paddock Lane Designs. So bear with me for a moment and I'll get the cover page up for the Moonlight Waters. Julie Fane, my apologies. So, with the joys of glare on things, this is the cover page of the artwork by Julie Fane of Moonlight Waters Max Colours. If you've been with me for a while, you will know the challenges I've had with this piece, and I think it's going to be challenges that I'm going to have throughout the life of stitching this. This is where I'm at so far, and I've been focusing mostly on the wings for the fairy. My biggest challenge at the moment is the way that I've read the pattern for the wings, and I have done a combination of marking off stitches on the chart that I may not have actually stitched, and then the other way around as well, where I've stitched places but not properly marked it off on the chart, and I've gotten myself into a bit of a spin. So I'm doing the best that I can to try and fudge things as much as I practically can, because my concern is if I keep on the track that I am, it's going to have an impact on the rest of the piece, especially the body of the fairy. I am lucky that the fairy is surrounded by the moon, and has the background of the moon, and a lot of the colours that make up the moon are very light colours. So I've got that buffer of being able to fudge some of the colours and fudge some parts of it. Fingers crossed I can get there and get it sorted out. It is tempting to frog a lot of it. I don't like frogging if I can get away with it. It's something where I feel stubborn. It's that stubborn determination of wanting to persevere and just going with it and working through it. And this is part of what I love with full coverage pieces, that we have that flexibility of being able to fudge and frog, or but fudge things and personalize it where we can. And the size of the piece, we find that it tends to just absorb some of the challenges that we experience with it. Speaking of challenges, and another full coverage piece that has been charted by HAED, I've been also working on a piece called Scaryy Cats based on artwork by Jeff HAED. I'm making an effort to not be too negative with this piece because I'm at the stage where I am starting to work on where one of the ears of the cats. That is something I'm excited about, and that was one of my goals for working on this piece through the month of October. Noting that today is the 26th of October and we have three to 5 days left of October, and I am nearing my end of wanting to stitch on spooky related things because I've been doing spooky stitching for 2 months. I have loved all of the pieces that I've worked on, noting what I have just said about the last two pieces. So it's those learning curves that I think will make me stronger for it. I know that I've learned a lot about stitching and what level of coverage I want on my full coverage pieces based on the fabric that I'm stitching, and with what we've seen with some of the other pieces in my recent episodes, such as the couple of HAEDs that I'm immediately thinking of. I'm thinking of The Reader, for example, and I'm also thinking of His Master's Voice. Those two pieces, if you've been with me for a little while, they have been a trial and error that I've talked about of figuring out whether I do 3 strands doing tent stitch or doing two strands of a full cross of 2/1 or 3/1 style of stitching, just to get that really good block of colour that I'm after. Now, the last piece that I do have to share with you that I've spent a little bit of time on is my first cross stitch piece. I'm finding the cover page while I'm talking, so I'm a little bit distracted. So the first piece that I have purchased and I'm working on is by Unconventional X Stitch, and it is the Headless Horseman. I've chosen to start in the center of this particular chart, and this is where I'm at so far. Now, the center of this chart is where we see the breastplate of the horse. So I'll just zoom in just a little bit more so we can see what's going on here. Okay, so hopefully the glare isn't too bad and you'll be able to see what I'm referring to. Where you can see the darker colours, that's between the horse's mouth and the breastplate of the saddle and such, or harness, whichever way you want to call it. It's the breastplate that connects onto the saddle. That's where I'm stitching at the moment, and as we can sort of see, there's going to be a lot of dark browns or different shades of brown before we get to any other component of the piece, and it's going to take some time, but it's going to be worth it, and I'm looking forward to seeing more progress on this piece. Noting that when I did spend a bit more time on the Headless Horseman, I actually watched Sleepy Hollow for the first time of many years. Well, not exactly the first time, I rewatched it after many years between then and now. So then was when I was a teenager, and I think the movie, it had been recently released. I don't remember exactly. It was interesting watching it again, and I feel that I need to watch it again but have captions on next time, because I found that for the most part the movie was pretty quiet with dialogue, but the sound effects and the music was quite loud, so I needed to be careful with all of that, because at the time of watching the movie when I was stitching, my boyfriend was having a snooze and I didn't want to disturb him, yet knowing he does wear earplugs sometimes when he's having a rest. Also, there was external noises that were out of my control, where we've got a lot of Harley Davidson motorbikes that drive past, or we've got trucks, we've got cars that have backfiring sounds, or cars who really want to let everyone know what vehicle they're driving by revving engines and that all that kind of good stuff when you're living in the city and close to a beach, and people just wanting to show off the cars and vehicles that they have. So all of those things combined, it's like, yeah, I'm going to need to put the captions onto the movie next time, or even some other TV shows that are a bit quiet. That said, still talking a little bit about the Sleepy Hollow movie and such, I do remember within the last 5 to 10 years, a TV series had been on Sleepy Hollow as well, where it was, I guess, similar to other shows. I'm thinking of Elementary as well, like the Sherlock Holmes and Watson kind of dynamic, where you've got a consultant coming in who's helping out the police with solving murders and such. And the premise with the Sleepy Hollow TV series was that Ichabod Crane had come back to life, and he was trying to learn a bit about modern day life of the year 2000s, and also trying to help the police with solving whatever crimes were happening in that area at the time. I remember wanting to watch those episodes, but when it was on TV for where I live, it was on just a little bit later than I would have liked because of my life at the time. I'll have to look again for streaming services or other places that I can get my little mitts on to rewatch some of those episodes, to then figure out how much I want to invest in watching that show and all the jazz that goes with it. So overall, rewatching the movie, I think it's still held up okay though. It's not like the movie was too dated with how the special effects were done or anything like that. As time goes on, these things happen, and it's all good. So as much of the rambling I've done, talking about Sleepy Hollow probably for a little bit too long, this is all the stitching that I've done for the last couple of weeks. And now that we are towards the end of October, I'm really keen to move into No Plans November. No Plans November means that I am not committing myself to any specific project or projects for the month of November. So I am going to be embracing the sweewee, stitching what I want when I want. And I think the month of November will probably be long enough for me to be okay with that, because I will then get to the stage of feeling like I need some set plans again, because I had too much freestyle free time going on for figuring out whatever projects I wanted to do. So there will probably be still times when I'm like, I know I've got a lot of projects to work on, I just don't know what I want to work on. The best thing might be for me to identify some projects that I want to spend some time on and see some progress on for the month of November, in preparation for next year and other stitching challenges that I have in mind that I may want to participate in, and also getting in preparation for December and doing the Christmas themed stitching and getting some finishes done as well of small cross stitch Christmas pieces that I finished stitching roughly mid this year in July, but I now need to actually finish them fully to be able to give them to my colleagues at work, and it'll hopefully work out in the end. The time has just gone so quickly. Now we're getting to the stage of being today years old when I learned something a bit new about the loop method of starting any bit of cross stitch on a new piece of thread. The background context for all of this is based on some discussions that my mum and I have had off and on for a few months with regards to a cross stitch piece that she was working on. She has started working on a heaven and earth design and had decided to start stitching it on, I think, 14 count fabric. And what she was finding when she was stitching two over one, that the fabric was still showing through with the stitching. And when she was talking with a lady at a craft store, the lady, as part of information gathering to then provide guidance for mum, she'd ask mum if she does the loop start method for any thread that she might have on her needle. And mum says, yeah, she does the loop method. And the lady explained that might be having an influence on why the fabric is showing through a bit with her stitching. And what I learned via mum telling me this is when you have just one single strand of thread of a skein of floss, whatever you want to call it, when you then loop it around, that's where the thread might sort of twist a bit because it's going against its grain, so to speak, where, to the best of my understanding, the fibres of a thread will have a natural way of which way it wants to go. And when you are then doubling it up, we're kind of going against the grain, so to speak. And that's where we find that we have to, and this is also a little bit to do with the way we stitch, it twists up a bit. We get the knots and we have all of the challenges that we have as part of our stitching. So this is where the lady at the craft store had recommended that if mum's going to continue stitching with two threads, that instead of doing the loop method, that there might be some other ways that she could start the stitching with that particular thread or particular colour. And that way the stitches may sit a bit neater and that they may reduce how much fabric shows through with the stitching. With all of this in mind, it got me thinking a bit more about my own stitching, and I do the loop method start for a lot of my projects and a lot of the colours that I use during stitching. And what it has me thinking about is all the other variants that play into the loop method and why we have fabric showing through in some places and why it doesn't have fabric showing through in other places. For me, I know it's a lot to do with the tension that I have for the fabric. So I 99% of the time use a hoop for keeping the tension a bit and making it a bit easier for stitching. And I know that the tension has a big impact on, I guess, how neat the stitches are, and it also has a lot to do with the way that I'm stitching as well, where I know that I might stitch horizontally where it calls for it, or depending on which way, or not which way, but depending on where the stitches are for a particular colour. I do cross-country kind of stitching, so if it's going to be, say, diagonal stitching, I'll stitch diagonally in that sort of way, or if it's going to be vertical or any other kind of direction that can go with it, I know that's going to have an influence on how neat my stitches are and how tight I pull on the thread and all those other factors. So it's not going to stop me from doing the loop method start with my stitches. It's certainly going to have me thinking a bit about how I do the stitching though with the loop method. And it's also got me thinking, in the circumstances that are appropriate, looking at other ways of how I can start and finish my stitches, especially if it's going to be confetti stitching, where it's just the single color here, there, and scattered all over the place. So this is where I'm curious about your thoughts. Did you know about the loop start and the threads being a particular way, and how it influences the way the stitches sit? Or did you know about this, and is that why you choose to start your stitches off in a different way? I'm really curious about that, and I'd love to see if we can get a conversation happening about all of this in the comments. So I'll make sure that I start off the conversation in the comments, and if you've got any thoughts or questions even, or any opinions, I'd love to see them all in the comment section. So that's pretty much it for this episode. I appreciate that it is a little bit shorter than some of my recent ones, and I'm looking forward to next episode, just to see what I end up working on to then share with you. So until next time, I hope you have a great fortnight and happy stitching. See you.